It's my pleasure to rise as the education critic for the New Democratic Caucus, as well as the MPP for Windsor West, to respond to the minister's statement today. When we talk about childcare in Ontario, the conversation needs to be more than a discussion of places and spaces. Yes, we need childcare spaces in Ontario, but we need to think critically about what type of spaces we want to invest in. We need to think critically about the cost incurred by families who are finding it harder and harder to afford even the most fundamental services in this province. While I appreciate the comments from the Associate Minister of Education, I must point out that the young families who could barely afford childcare before this session started in September are still in the exact same predicament. This government's throne speech said nothing about making childcare more affordable. There was not a single word in the throne speech about affordable childcare. When new parents can't afford childcare, it makes it more difficult to build the good life we know and expect in Ontario. When childcare is unaffordable, too many parents are forced to take on and carry huge credit card debt. This is high-interest debt that they can't pay down. It makes it more difficult for families to save for a house or to move to a larger apartment to accommodate their new family. Unfortunately, for thousands of parents in Ontario, they can't afford childcare. It's becoming even more difficult to find savings elsewhere. When they use less electricity, they are paying more for it and continue to face rate increases. When families don't earn a living wage, even the most basic services can be out of reach. Life in Ontario is truly reaching a tipping point. The throne speech could have addressed some of these issues. It could have specified that the allocation of any new investment in childcare will focus on the public and not-for-profit sector. It could have helped to ensure accountability and affordability, but again, these issues were simply left out. Childcare spaces cannot be discussed in isolation of affordability and accountability. Affordable childcare is key to addressing the gender wage gap in Ontario. Lack of affordable, high-quality childcare limits many women's opportunity to participate in full-time work, training, or education. We must also acknowledge that early learning and childcare work is a female-dominated workforce. Our dedicated early childhood educators and childcare workers deserve respect, good working conditions, and a paycheck that reflects the importance of the work that they do. Speaker, the throne speech was a missed opportunity for this government, and we'll be sure to remind them of this moving forward. My New Democratic colleagues and I are committed to affordable, high-quality childcare. We're committed to respect for those working in the childcare sector. We know that you can't talk about childcare spaces in isolation. We know that increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour will help make services like childcare more attainable for parents in this province. We know that real action on the affordability of electricity will help ease monthly bills faced by all Ontario families. And we know that publicly owned assets that pay annual dividends to the province save us money in the long run. Speaker, we know this because, unlike the government, we listen. And in the minute and 20 seconds I have left, I would just like to talk about the investment that the government has spoken about, the money that they're going to be putting into childcare well beyond an election year. So clearly this is an election platform, not necessarily a solid commitment. The minister said in her speech, and I quote, "So far, $113 million has been allocated, resulting in almost 3,800 new licensed childcare spaces coming soon to communities across Ontario." And I'd just like to point to the Liberal record on allocating funds to things like childcare or education, because they specifically talk about investing in childcare spaces within the education system. I'd like to point out that $1.1 billion was allocated by this Liberal government to be spent on education, and they didn't spend it. So you'll have to forgive me if myself and many people across the province are very skeptical when the government says that they're allocating money, that they're going to invest in something, only to find out that over years they do not actually invest that money where it needs to be. The Associate Minister also said that that's a staggering investment in the future of our children in our province, and what's staggering is that this government would use an announcement like this as a campaign promise rather than following through.